Hello everybody, my name is Leonomai, and this is an RPG Maker 2 tutorial on how to farm using a new method that I created. I already have a farming tutorial on my channel, so you can check it out if you want to. One of my subscribers asked me how to farm in this particular method that I'm about to show you, so that's why I'm doing this tutorial. However, I should warn you that this is not 100% complete. There are some things that I have yet to create, like for example, a day and night cycle. I haven't created that yet, but I think it should still work out. So anyway, we have this 3x3 plot of soil here that we can farm on if we so desire. In order to farm on this, we have to hoe the soil using a hoe, which we can find in our inventory. All we have to do is equip the hoe and interact with the soil by pressing the triangle button. And what that does is it makes a crate appear. That's actually a crate. Now, if I were to change the camera angle, you would be able to see a crate that is clipped into the ground. So that's how I made that. We can do one of two things after we hoe the soil. We can water the soil, or we can place down a seed. I'm going to choose the mushroom seed and equip that. And we just do the same thing. We interact with the soil by pressing the triangle button, and that places down a seed. What that is a ball that I've colored yellow, or sort of a yellowish color. And then in the script editor, I scaled it down into a sort of oval shape. Also, I should point out that when you place a seed down, it actually subtracts a seed from your inventory. It doesn't subtract it from your personal inventory, it subtracts it from your bag, which is actually called chest, right here. I made it so that the character starts out with 30 seeds, but since we placed 3 down, it subtracted 3, so now instead of 30 we have 27 mushroom seeds. I'm gonna do the same with turnips, so I'm gonna equip the turnip seed and place those down here. So instead of 30 turnip seeds, we should have 24. So after we place the seed down, we can water the seed by equipping the watering can. And then you just do the same thing, interact with the soil. I'm gonna water all of them except for the bottom row. Now, like I said before, there is no day and night cycle, so in order to simulate a day passing by, I have created an ability called Next Day. This is something you can do too, just as a debugging sort of thing. It's just for debugging purposes only. And when we select that, now there's nothing here. That's because we have to refresh the events, and there's an invisible event over here. If I walk over it, it says loading ... I don't think that's going to be in the final game. That's sort of just a debugging thing that I have created just to simulate a day passing by, but this is what happens. So we have these mushrooms here, the turnips, and as you'll notice, the seeds down here haven't changed because we haven't watered them. So that's what happens when you neglect to water a seed. These mushrooms are done, they're ripe, so we can harvest them. To harvest a plant, all we have to do is equip the hoe and then interact with the plant. And if we go to our bag or chest, you can see that we have 3 mushrooms now. The turnips are not done, they take 2 days to grow, so we have to water them again. But I'm not going to water them, instead I'm just going to leave them as they are and water the seeds. And then go to the next day so you can see what happens when you neglect to water a plant. You probably already know what's going to happen. Yeah, they turn into dead plants. Let me refresh the events. and go back up. You can harvest the dead plants, although they're not worth anything, as you might imagine. The turnips in the bottom row are not done, so I'm gonna water those. Go to the next day. So now they are ready to be harvested. So as you can see, different types of plants grow at different intervals. You can set it up so that they take a certain amount of days to grow. So mushrooms take 1 day, while turnips take 2 days. And you might have another vegetable or fruit that takes many days, or months, or years. As long as you want, really. So now we can harvest these. And we should have 3 turnips in our bag, so that's how it works. Now I'm going to show you how to create it. I should probably tell you that in this video we are not going to do any scripting. And the reason why I've decided to not do any scripting in this video is because it's going to get really complicated really fast. So in the next video, we're gonna do scripting. In this video, we're just gonna set up variables and flags and items and things like that. I'm gonna go to beginner mode and then change the preferences. So the first thing we need to do is create some variables. Let's go to Game Settings, go to the Custom tab, and then go to, let's set up some flags. So let's go to the Flag tab and then go down here. The first flag we're going to create is called Watered 1. Okay, so you're going to create a watered flag for every single plot that you create. Also, I should probably mention that it's a good idea to plan out how many plots you're gonna have in the final game, because if you don't do that, you know, you might decide to have 20 plots and then later on change your mind and have 30. And if you do that, you're gonna have flags and variables that are very unorganized. So it's a good idea to figure out how many plots you want first, and then. So let's create another watered flag. I'm just gonna have 2 plots in this tutorial. You might have as many as 100. So in that case, you're gonna have 100 watered flags. And what this flag is for is it determines if a plot is watered or not. So if it's watered, it will be turned on, and if it's not watered, it'll be off. Another really important thing that I have to mention is that if you decide to have as many as 100 plots in a dungeon, I would suggest that you don't have that many, because I have tested it out. I had as many as, I think it was like, yeah, it was 100. I had 100 plots in a dungeon, and what that did was it bogged down the game. It made it really slow to the point where it was just unplayable and really frustrating. So I would suggest, if you were to make a lot of plots in a dungeon, just do something like 49, which is basically a 7x7 square of plots. Okay. We're gonna create another flag called Harvestable (1). You're gonna create one for every single plot. So if you have 100 plots, make 100 of these. Harvestable. Another reason why it's good to plan out how many plots you're gonna have in the final game is that you never know how many flags or variables you're going to need. And in RPG Maker 2, they only give you a limited supply of flags and variables to use. So that's why it's a good idea to plan it out. So I'm done creating flags. Let's create some variables. Let's go to the variable tab and scroll down. We're going to create a variable called tool. Now this is a variable that determines what tool the character is using. A tool is basically anything that the character uses, like a hoe or a watering can, or even seeds. Every single seed is a tool. And also if you decide to create, fertilizer, that would be considered a tool as well. Let's create a variable called dirt1. This variable is going to determine what type of plant is being planted on the plot. So you might have a turnip on dirt 1, you might have a mushroom on dirt 2, and so on and so forth. So you're going to create a dirt variable for every single plot as well. So in this tutorial, I'm just going to have 2 plots, so 2 dirt variables. And we're going to create one more type of variable called days past 1. This variable determines how many days have passed for a specific plot. So we're going to create one for every single plot. So a day passes after you water the seed. If you don't water the seed, then this variable doesn't change, really, because the seed isn't growing, if that makes any sense. So, we're done creating variables. Now let's create some items. Go to Game Items, create new data. We're going to create a hoe and save it. We're not going to do anything to it right now. We're just going to create a name and save it. So we got a hoe. Let's create a watering can and save that. Now you can create the seeds. This is where you can actually get creative and come up with your own seeds. I'm just going to make a turnip seed. And for every seed that you make, of course, you want to create the actual product. So with turnip seeds, of course, you're going to have turnips. So make sure to create a turnip. I'm going to also make some mushroom seeds. And of course, a mushroom to go along with it. Along with seeds and vegetables, you can also create other tools if you want to. That's optional. Like, for example, fertilizer. That's an optional thing that you can create. Although I'm not going to make it in this tutorial because it would take too long to make it. So now that we have created our items, let's create a dungeon. Let's go to Graphics, Dungeon Editor, and call it Farm, and then go to Edit. This is where you can get really creative and come up with your own farm style. I'm not going to do anything fancy because that would just take too long, so I'm just going to color the sides. It's a good idea to color the sides, or to create sides, rather than have it transparent like how I would normally create it. The reason why it's a good idea to do that is because if you don't, the player can obviously see the crates clipped into the ground. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but maybe you'll see later. This is what I use for grass. You can use this for grass if you want, or you can choose a different texture. That's totally up to you. And I'll just do that. I'm only going to create 2 plots, so I have these 2 dirt plots here. You can create as many as you want, but like I said before, if you create too many, the game is going to get slow. It's going to, quote, lag, although lag is not the right term to describe it because lag is something else. Okay, so after you create your dungeon, let's create some objects. So go to Graphics, Object Models. This is another way you can get creative. I'm going to create a Hoed Soil, and that's basically just a crate, like I said before. And then you can edit the color if you want to. Here are the colors that I have used. For the red, I chose 30. For the green, it's 27. And for the blue, it's 18. I'm also going to save that to my swatch by pressing this icon, and it just saves it, so that when I go to this color, I can just go down here, click that. There we go. So this is what it should look like. It still looks like a crate, but yeah, just use your imagination. It should look like Hoed Soil. We're gonna copy that and paste it. This is going to be another version of it. It's going to be the Wet Hoed Soil. We're gonna go to the Custom tab. Right here where it says Bright, just move it down by 10, so instead of 30, it should be 20. And that will just make it darker, so it just looks wet. You know, when soil is wet, it just looks darker, so this is what it should look like. And we are also going to create a seed. And that model is going to be a ball, which is at 213. Select that, go to the colors, go to the custom tab, and the color should be 55 red, 55 for green, and 32 for blue. And it should look a little yellowish, like that. It doesn't look like a seed yet, but that's because we have to scale it down in the script editor. And also, if you want to, you can create your own vegetables. Just select a model like this, and then color it, you know, whatever color you want. I don't have to do that because we already have the vegetable right here. I'm gonna use that as the turnip, and then use the mushroom model for the mushrooms. So you can create whatever vegetables that you want. Okay, the last thing we're gonna do is create events, so let's go to Scripts, Events. We're gonna create a dirt event for every single plot. I only have 2 plots, so I'm just gonna make 2 dirt events. Once you create it, you're just gonna save it for now. We're not gonna do anything to it in this video, but in the next video, we might. Okay, so if you have 100 dirt, 100 plots, make sure to make 100 dirt events. You're gonna do the same thing for seeds. You're gonna have a seed event for every single plot. So I'm gonna create 2. The only reason why I have 2 plots in this tutorial is just to make things faster and easier. It would make it make this tutorial a lot longer if I made 100 plots, as you might imagine. Okay, so the last thing is to create an event for the tools. So you would make one for the hoe. You can just call it hoe, and then for the type, choose System. It's going to be a system event. And you're going to do that for every single tool. So we have one for the hoe, and we have one for the watering can. And you're going to make one for every type of seed as well. So I have turnip seeds. Oops. System. And mushroom seeds. And change that to system. Alright. Thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing. I'll see you in the next part of this tutorial. We're definitely not done yet. We still have to create the scripts. But I'll see you then. Goodbye.